see. Great. Hi, everybody. So welcome to today's workshop. This is going to be so exciting. We're going to be automating custom meeting reports with AI and make.com. I promise that's going to be more exciting than that sounds. And ultimately, this is going to open up a lot of potential for you. There could be some immediate use case here, but even just understanding the systems that I'm going to teach you today are really valuable. And so you'll start to see as we go how this can be repurposed in a lot of ways. First of all, as a brief background, then I will share my screen. I am Douglas. I'm the director of Razor. It's an automations agency. And so if I share this window, I believe I can just go like this. Great. Yeah. So here is our website, Razor. We do all sorts of very highly customized automations for businesses, a lot of things for lead generation, meeting reports, content marketing, social media, project management, and sales, and all this sort of stuff. We take clients through exploration phase, all the way through evaluation, execution, and education. And we've got some really fun videos of our various tools here on, they're only like 1 minute or so, and they're here on our homepage. So if you want to check that out, you can go to razor.co. And obviously, you'll hear more from us as we develop things. And also by joining today, you'll be invited to our daily newsletter, which features the latest news and tools and also jobs in the space. And you can always unsubscribe or change your frequency. And there's also a little mini podcast that is included in the email. I'm not going to show you, but if you get the email, you can click on it, and it's actually my voice cloned, and it reads the news in under 5 minutes, which is really fun. It keeps you abreast while you're making coffee or whatnot. So all that to say, that's 100% automated, and we do that for other industries too. But it's an incredibly cool little lead magnet that you can see here, which is nice. And like we actually have, a little bit more about it on our, we call it the Razor report. So, it's got the little email, what it looks like, and here are the podcasts that go to all the platforms. So it's incredibly cool. I'm not going to get too into that today. It'd be fun to do it. It's another kind of workshop. I could at least show you some of that stuff. But today what we're going to be doing is customized meeting reports, like I said, and I'm going to copy and paste these accounts that you're going to need. Hopefully that you've got them set up already. But if not, here are the links. You're going to need those few things. And I'm going to be breezing through this workshop. It's possible you might get into some issues. If there's challenges at the end, we can save time for Q&A, but I'm just going to kind of run through. I am recording it, so everybody on this call will get a recording too. So first things, what we're going to do is I'm going to introduce you to make.com. Okay, and so there's a link in the chat that you can sign up for an account if you haven't. It's going to be free to get started. They're very generous. It's kind of like a version of Zapier that's a little bit more visually attractive, and that's why I use it. It's got a few less integrations in terms of apps, but so sometimes you still might want to use Zapier. But I like this, and most of the time this is more than enough for me. And it also has a free version, which is really nice. So what is it? Well, Make, like Zapier, they call the duct tape of the internet, and it connects modules together. And what do I mean by that? Well, if you go in here under apps and services, you can start to get ideas for what you can do. So, featured apps, everything from HubSpot or LinkedIn, AI tools, forms, which we're going to get into today. But I mean, there's like, I think a couple of thousand of these. So you could click on anything from like, say, a Google Sheets, or maybe we'll just click on HubSpot because a lot of people use that. And you'll see that it actually has this list of modules that we're going to be able to play with. Some are triggers. This one's got a lot because it's a very developed, sometimes there's just one trigger, but this can watch for contacts added. This can, watch other things that happen, and all these crazy actions that it can do. So if something happens, then something else happens, right? There's this crazy amount here. You can even see what types of apps you can connect it with. And then they even have some templates, which is really cool. So this is often a great starting place to come in and be like, hey, what are some ideas? Like I use, Trello, for example, if it's a task manager. Cool, what can I do with Trello? I might come in here first and just see if it's even available. And I can look at the triggers and be like, oh, cool, watch cards, watch boards, watch comments, if something's moved to a list, and then what actions that they have. So this has been very powerful for some time, make.com. But It's extra powerful now because you can integrate AI into it. And that's what I'm going to be showing you to do today. So once you log in, I'm just going to give you a brief overview of the various pages that we've got here. It's a little bit complex, but don't worry, you're going to have a completely empty thing probably if this is your first thing. But really, this is where you have your scenarios, and the scenarios are kind of like the workflows. On the left-hand side, all you really other thing you might need to worry about is, and not worry too much, but is the connections. And that's where when you connect things like your Google account or your Trello account, that's where these live. And the value here is sometimes you need to reconnect them every few months or something like that. So your scenarios still work. Okay. So what we're going to do, and I started a little template here, you would just create a new scenario with this purple button at the top. And I'm going to just go into the template that I've built because we've only got an hour. So I want to work out of a template. Okay. So it's going to look like this. Let's just let it load up. I'm going to make it even more simple. I'm going to remove this, and this is what we're going to do. So to just walk you through it as a high-level overview first, we are going to take a submission from a Jotform, which is a free account for making forms, and then we're going to get a prompt from a Google document. Then we're going to process the uploaded transcript from the form with the prompt that we got from the Google Doc. And I'm going to tell you why we're doing that in a second when I go through this. Then we're going to take the response from the AI module. We're going to create a document out of it. We're going to make that document shareable. And then we're going to create a draft email so that if you're working with a team and they want to have a summary, you can instantly have a draft email dropped in your draft email box, and then you can go there and review it before sending to the team. Okay, so that is the general flow that we're going to be working on. Just before we get into it, I wanted to give you a brief overview of this interface. So first of all, like I said, really on this left-hand side, you're just going to look at scenarios most of the time. Down here, we have the opportunity to run the scenario. Scheduling, we can actually have some scheduling options. So immediately, once a day, every 15 minutes, things like that. We also have the ability to save, the ability to settings you probably won't need to worry about, notes you don't need to worry about. This is, as you can see, really fun to play around with all this stuff. Sometimes it becomes messy. So this little one is an auto align tool, and it can take it back to some sort of semblance of order. This is explaining of the flow. You don't need to really worry about that. And then here, this is interesting. This is where you can export and import blueprints. And blueprints is like what this is. So if you mess something up, it's nice because if you've exported it, you can go and re-import it and it will go back to the previous version. Or you can just click on previous versions and see like, okay, oh, I broke it. Well, the 15th was the last time it was working. So you can go and save the day that way. Okay, so that's a brief overview of the general navigation. Let's talk about this canvas. And so you can actually, if you click and hold, you can move it around. You can, with two fingers, at least on my Mac trackpad, you can zoom in and out, which is sometimes useful if you have. Ours is pretty simple, so we don't need it too much. And then you can drag these by just clicking and dragging. A couple of other things we will no doubt work on as they come up. So let's just get started here. Also, you can name things. And I really recommend that you make it clear what exactly is happening. So in this case, it's a general meeting summary, Jotform to Google Doc to email. And you can also rename these modules just so to keep it clear. I'll get into that in a second. You're going to have a blank thing, probably with just a little button for you to do something first. And don't worry about that. Let's jump into Jotform first. Once you come into Jotform, you are going to, unless you have existing meeting or forms, you're going to create a new form. And then when you do that, you'll be given this sort of thing. I'm just going to work with my form that I've already created, but it's really simple. So you can probably recreate this, just as we go even. Basically, with Jotform, it's a very simple form creator. and you can add these elements. And in our case, literally all we've got is, well, this is I put a little description here. That's called a paragraph. You just drag it over, and then when you click to edit it, that's how I made this little description up here. That really doesn't matter. That's just so my form has a little instructions at the top of what it does. These other things are, this is a short text field like that. So the meeting title and project name and meeting transcript. So those are the three fields I have. It takes you 2 minutes to create this form. Okay. And so once you've created that, you need to publish it. And now it's published. So that's good. And now we can start the automation process. So let's go back here. You're going to create, when you create your first scenario, it will give you the opportunity to create a module. So we're going to just duplicate this. I'm going to walk you through it step by step. So it's going to be a Jotform. And so as I click on that, as you notice, this came up. You can also click on this. Well, I'll show you that in a second. If that doesn't come up, you can control click or right click anywhere on the canvas and add a module. See, it's already starting to try to connect it. You can right click on it, delete it. Let's just start with Jotform, and we're going to watch for submissions. Okay. You'll need to create a webhook. So in this case, I've created one, general meeting form. You're going to add a new webhook. And when you do, you want to create a name for it. A webhook basically makes it such that when Jotform gets filled out, it gets sent to make.com. So that's what a webhook is. It's not any more complicated than that. It's just basically connecting the two platforms so that when a form is finished, it works like that. I have a few accounts here. I'm going to want to use my form. Team is, I think I just do like a no team assigned, and the form is the meeting summarizer. So you would choose the form from your list. So also, in case that was when you, okay, the one other thing to know here, you won't have a connection yet. I've got my 3 already. You're going to need to add one. So when you click add a connection, you're going to be given a name. I would just say, yeah, my Jotform connection is fine. It doesn't matter what you call it. Once you're dealing with multiple accounts, like for example, you see here, I have a few different accounts for different clients. You want to label them correctly so that you know in case you need to refresh one or choose them that you're doing it correctly. So you're going to probably only just have one. All right, you're going to need to get the API key, and that's going to help you connect the accounts. To do that, you go to Jotform, you go over here, and you go to Settings, and then you go to API on the left-hand side, and you can create a new key, and it will give you this number. You probably won't have one yet, so you can create one. You can call it something like make.com or something like that. And I think that is going to be, we'll see if I've changed any settings from my last time, but basically, and then we'll fix it if it doesn't work, but you'll put your API key in there, and guess what? Then you're going to be able to see this. It'll show you your connection. Then you can choose, I believe most of the time is no team assigned, and then you can choose meeting summarizer. Okay. So I have now connected it to the form, and I can click OK. And then also, you won't need to do this, but I'm moving the starting point to the new module. Okay, so first things first, we want to test to see that it's connected, okay? So before we get into anything else, this is the trigger, so we need to see. I'm going to right click on this and say run this module only, and it's going to just sit here and wait. So now I can go back into this meeting summarizer form, and I can open this in a new tab. And here it is, okay? So I'm going to say meeting title is awesome. Or why don't I just say, I'll say what, Razor summary meeting, okay? Project name is, let's call this AI workshop. And then a meeting transcript. I've prepared a meeting transcript for this. the power of this is, and why we're doing this, like, why don't we just take a look at my Fathom? I use Fathom because it's free. I love it. It's got some advanced tools if you want to pay for it, but you don't need to, which is really nice because most of them are paid. So look, these are awesome tools. I think, okay, I got to sign in with my Google. Um, these are great tools. Otter, um, Fathom. What other ones? Oh, I might not have done the right one. I think it's this one. I think I did this one. Let's take a look. I don't even know. I think it actually, I might have done it with my personal. Sorry to go on a tangent here. I just wanted to show you, I wasn't planning to do this, but I want to show you that these tools are great, but the point being that they don't always give you as customized a summary as you want. And we're going to make a really amazing summary here. If you click on these, it'll show you some basic things, maybe some takeaways or whatnot. So here are some key takeaways and some cool things. That's pretty good. Fathoms is pretty good, but you might want it to be even more specific than this. And that's what we're going to get into. All of them allow you to take the transcript. So from whatever platform you use to record the meeting, whether it's Google or whether it's Google Meet, whether it's Otter, whether it's Read, whether it's Grain, whether it's Fathom, whether it's Zoom, you need the transcript. Okay. So we're going to take a transcript that I've created here just as a dummy. I'm going to go back to the form and we are going to paste the transcript in here and submit. And now look at this. This should, boom, it worked. So it went green. It's connected. So that form is connected to make.com. Great. So we can now get into our first thing. What we're going to do first, I'm going to show you, we're going to actually skip this step and I'm going to go right into OpenAI's module. Before we do this, you're going to need to have an OpenAI developer account. Don't worry, that sounds complicated. It's really just so you can put a little bit of cash in there and $5 or something, which gets you incredibly far. Like it's unlikely you'd even spend $5 even if you did dozens of these. But it's different than your paid ChatGPT subscription. It actually uses token credits. So the way to do that is you go to the link I've put in the chat. It's openai.com. And you're going to go to products and the API login. And once you're logged in, you're going to see this kind of busy dashboard. Don't worry too much about this. What we need to connect our accounts is a couple of things. We need to, first of all, we're going to be creating a completion. It sounds like you'd want to message an assistant, but that's a little bit more complicated. A completion is what we're going to do. First thing it's going to want to do is use a connection. Remember, we're connecting all of these the first time. You're going to need to add one. And when you say add, you're going to put the connection name like before, an API key, and an organization ID. All right, so where do you get those? Well, once you've logged in to OpenAI, you're going to go to the, oh, I haven't logged in yet, apparently. Here we go. And my password, the amount of times I need to do this is just so frustrating, but it's always logging me out. Okay, so anyways, here's what we're going to need to do. First of all, in your dashboard, you're going to go into API key. In fact, I think first what you want to do is go into your settings and then you go into billing and you're going to just add $5 or something like that. I have 20 bucks in there. It takes me all month to use that. And I do tons of automations. So it's really cool. So you would add just say $5 to your billing and then you would go into general. Here's your organization ID under. So we clicked on the gear, we clicked on general and the organization ID, you would copy that, plug it into your organization ID here. And then also you would go into dashboard and then the API key. And you create a new secret key. And when you do that, it will give it to you that you can copy and paste it. And that's going to be the other thing that you do right here, API key. Once you've done that, yours will look like this. It will give you these other options, which is great. So we're going to now do a chat completion. We're going to use the latest model of ChatGPT's, I guess LLM, and we're going to have these messages. And so here is the important thing to know. These next couple of things is you have typically the system and user are the ones that we're going to use the most. System is you instructing the AI how to behave. So you are an executive assistant. I'm going to show you in a second. User is the message that you're going to want to ask the AI to give you something. So just to save time, I have already done this here, and I'm just going to copy it over. Okay. Now, so model 4.40 is the best. Add the message. The system message is here. And I'm going to say you're an expert project manager tasked with creating accurate meeting notes, takeaways, and assigning tasks. Max tokens is you can just put 0, and that means it'll use as many as it needs. This is a way to save on price if you're doing giant things with tons of text. You can limit it to, say, 1,000 tokens, which is around, I don't know, 800 or 500 words, something like that. So you can put that there. But we're going to need another message. And in this, what I can say here is the user message like this. It would be user. Now I could just say summarize this meeting and put a colon. And here's where it gets interesting. If you can see, as soon as I click on any of these boxes, this side menu comes up. And I know it looks a little bit confusing, but this is all previous modules data that got loaded. So you can use any of that. This module can use any module's data from before it. So we can come down here and look, and we have all of these little tokens are the data that came in from that form. So we're going to get the meeting transcript and put it right there. So that could be good enough. But guess what? Summarize this meeting. You might as well just do it in a regular chat GPT. Like, that's not very interesting. We want to get more advanced than that. Here's a trick that I love that I think is really useful to know. I like to store my prompts in Google Documents. That's why I have this get prompt module here. And what this is going to do is it's going to look at the contents of a document and use that for the prompt. Why is that cool? Well, that means if you want to make little tweaks, like if you want to add one more thing in your summary, you don't actually need to come back into the automation. So what do I mean by that? Here's my Google Doc. This is my very customized meeting summarizer prompt. And I'll send a link to this to everybody on the call. But basically, it's a pretty elaborate prompt, but you could get even more detailed with this. But look, I got meeting details, summary of discussions, action items, next steps, key takeaways. I even have, let's see, I even have somewhere, let's see, I don't know, but they basically, you can really review this. I also say at the bottom, return your response as well formatted HTML. So rather than just a big block of text, this is going to make it look pretty. So as you can see, this is a large prompt. Instead of just copying that and pasting it in here, what I'm going to do is get that prompt from Google Docs. So here's what we do. Right click on this little link, and we're going to say add a module, Google Docs, and you're going to get contents of a document. So look how cool this is. You're going to need to add your Google connection. It's really a one-click thing. Just connect it with Google, super simple. And we're going to go by mapping. You can do two things. You can say drop down, and then this way it will go walk you through step by step your drive. This is a pain, like I would go through this and this. So instead, what I like to do is I do by mapping. And so what does that mean? Just disregard that. The document ID. Okay, where do I find that? Well, guess what? Here it is. It's this string of text between these two slashes. So you copy that and we paste. That's all we have to do is paste that in there. And then look at this. We can also, just to make sure that worked, I can right click on it and say run this module only. Boom. And there it goes. This is the output. And we can see text content. So here is that entire document's content. Pretty cool, right? How do we use that though? Well, we use it like this. In the AI module, instead of this basic prompt, what I can do is replace it with the text content from the previous module. Everybody get that? So now this prompt is in this prompt box. I mean, that master prompt is here. And then I also might just put a colon there. I might put a couple of quotation marks just so it knows. I think it would know already, but that's fine. So, okay, we've got our AI module working. Also, at this point, I'm going to show you a couple of best practices. If you right click on things, I always recommend naming these things because it's simple enough, this one we're working on, but some of our modules or some of our scenarios have dozens or even hundreds of these modules. And so it gets really easy to forget real quick. So I'm just going to rename these like this. So this is just a best practice. Okay, great. So here's what we got. We are next going to create a Google document. And what I could also do, let me see if I say run this module only, meeting transcript, text content. I could do this manually if I wanted to, but I'm not going to do that because if you wanted to do that, you could literally paste in. I mean, I guess I could try it. Paste in the meeting transcript. There it is. And then paste in the prompt. And that's this. And this is a great way just to test, just so you can know. So let's see, it got it all in there. All right, great. So now it's got, when you process it manually like that, you have to input the stuff. But when this is run as a scenario, it will get that information from these previous two modules. But this will help just so you can see how the next step works, because it's a little bit like, not clear immediately, but there it did. So it did its output, okay? So, and we can see here's the output. And where you're like, where is the result? Well, once you learn it, it's pretty easy to find, but you need to find it. And it's in the choices inside here and the message and the content. So here's this whole thing that it made. So we're going to need to do that for the next step. Okay, great. So now what we're going to do is we've got our form, we've got our prompt, we created the summary, and that summary, if you remember, is going to be nice looking HTML. So, which means it's going to be formatted well when we create this document. Okay, so we're going to now go plus again and do a Google document, create a document, and we're going to use our Google connection that we've already connected. And so now what we can do is something fun and creative. We can actually go like this. What's the name of the document going to be? Well, why don't we use the meeting title? I think that would be one good one to use. We're not going to use the transcript. And then project name. So what we can do is go meeting title slash, or I'll just do a dash, and then project name. And then if I want, I can do a date. And I'm going to show you this date format. And this is a good opportunity to explain a little bit more about this box. As you can see, this list is getting longer now because everyone's got more and more modules before it. You can collapse it if you need to. Sometimes these get pretty long and that can be helpful. But there's also some other functions here that I'm just going to go over briefly. Because if you're familiar at all with code, you can start to see how these could be useful. You can also always just click on them and it kind of describes, or not click on them, just hover, and it describes what they do. So for example, if something's empty, then add something else or whatnot. And you can also understand, you can learn more about any of these things like, if something equals something, then do something. There's a bunch of math operators which you can play around with. There's a bunch of text operators which can be cool. You can like strip out HTML, you can capitalize, you can do various things, lowercase, you can make it shorter length, things like that. And then also there is the date. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you there's two types of built-in immediate date functions. There's the timestamp, which is kind of funny. If you don't know what that is, it's number of seconds since January 1st, 1970. It's kind of a universal online timestamp protocol. And then there's now, which is the current date and time, which we're going to do, but it's going to not look too pretty. We'll do one run just so you can see it. And then we're going to fix it afterwards. Content. Okay, so content, what are we going to do? We're going to go and get that. Remember, we had the choices, the message, and the content. So that's going to be that. Now we're going to choose a new document's location, but we're going to do it from mapping. And I made a folder in Google Drive right here. It looks like it's even already created one, but I'm just going to remove this because we're going to do it again in a second. Okay, so this folder, here's the folder ID. Again, you got to copy that. Sometimes there's a dash. You got to make sure to copy the whole thing. Okay, I can't stress that enough. And then did I copy it? Let's see. Yeah, so there we go. And that is now going to drop this summary into that folder. And so again, I would rename it, create doc. I mean, I guess it's obvious here, but I just want to get you in the best practices camp. And now we're going to do make this shareable because we might want to send this to our team. Okay. So I'm going to press plus Google Drive, scroll down. You can also just, I think just say, you can search there because sometimes these lists are long. Get a share link. And we're going to, again, choose the file ID. So it's a file. We don't want a folder because we just created a file. File ID, well, in fact, in this case, it's called a document ID. That's a little bit funny. They make it a bit, I guess they want it to be for folders or for documents. In this case, you're just using the document ID. And then the other thing that you need to know is that anybody can read and then anyone can view this. If you wanted to say like, user or group, I think you could enter things more manually. But for us, we're just going to say anybody and you keep file discovery off. So basically what's that going to do is going to make this shareable because by default, it won't be shareable. And then you can't share it with a team. They're going to have to request the access. Okay, great. And so now what we're going to do is go into and create an email draft. We're going to create a draft email. So after we process this whole transcript, it's going to make a draft for us, and then we can go and review it. So create a draft. First thing that you're going to need to do is add your email to make.com. So when you click on add, Google's really easy. Microsoft is really easy. I don't know if you need a paid Google Workspace. I think you can do it. I don't know, actually, if you can do it with free Gmail. You might need a Google Workspace. Or you can do it. Oh, my AI is trying to help me with something because I mentioned the G.
Let's figure this out together. Please provide more context about what you're trying to do.
Did I trigger someone else's? Wow, I did trigger someone else's. That's bizarre. Okay, so anyways, what I was saying was if you have an email account that you connect to Google to Apple Mail or to other email clients, then that's called an IMAP option. So one way or another, if you want to do this, you might need the paid Google Workspace or Microsoft Outlook 365, or you can do it manually with IMAP. When you do that, you're going to get probably say other, and that's where you have your server, your port, these other things. You get this from your email hosting company or your web hosting company. So if you have a problem finding it, message your web hosting company and they'll help you get your IMAP information. Okay, but I'm going to use just my one that I've got here. I'm going to choose my folder. I'm going to put it in, which is drafts, obviously. And then subject, what we can do is let's just actually, just to save some time, I'm going to just copy from here. Okay, and so what this is I'll actually copy this And you'll see when I do, in fact, this is kind of pointless to do it that way. What I could do is just copy this, the name of the file here, and then just make that the subject line. And then I'm going to go down to the content. Well, I got to add a recipient. Oh, and add a folder. I did this already. I think because I didn't do it right, it makes me do it again. Okay. Add a recipient. Now, this is kind of funny. You can't, unless you know exactly who you want to send it to, you could add those recipients here. For now, I'll just say I'm going to just send it to myself. And then I can change that to whoever on the team is going, wants to get the summary. Okay, so now we're going to craft the email. Now, I have a little template down here that I'm going to use just so I don't have to write it out again. But guess what? It's not going to work just by copying and pasting. First of all, I'm going to want HTML because it's going to look better. Plain text looks just kind of all smashed together. But there's a couple of things to know. When I paste this in, do you notice any difference from here? These are nice solid tokens. Well, these are not, and that's because they're referring to these modules, ones that I'm not connected with. So I'm going to go back and do this. This is the meeting title. See now, and then project name. Okay. And then the share link is from what we just did, share link. And then these little BRs are HTML, super simple HTML that when the email gets sent, it's going to introduce a line break. That's what BR stands for. So this is just a formatting thing. Otherwise, it'll all be just one big line. You need to tell it, okay, I want to break, and here I want to break. And just for reference, here's the raw text or the raw response. Now, this could be anything you want it to say in this. Remember where it was? Boom. This can be anything you want, this email. You can get more detailed or whatnot. But for now, let's just do that. And I'm going to come back to this date format thing because I do think that's also useful and it's a little bit above and beyond. I wish they had it just built in, but they make you jump through a couple of steps. Okay, so guess what? We are ready to test this thing. So when I press save, and then I'm going to press back here, and then hopefully we're going to see it actually in action. So we come to our form. Oops. And it's nice that already it's all in there. I don't have to re-enter it. So Razor summary meeting, AI workshop, and then here's that transcript, remember? And then when I press submit, if all is working well, boom, you start to see it. This is the most satisfying part of the whole thing. It's one by one, it is doing its thing. And on the right-hand side, you can see what's going on. So it's going through now the AI process. That always takes a little bit longer. But once it's done, it'll do the rest. While that's happening, is there anything else? No, I think we're kind of on top of everything. I do want to break it also too, so I can show you how to fix things. Okay, look, it did it. It got to the end. So if all worked right, I should have a draft in my outbox. Here it is. How cool is that? So click on it, and here is the summary of so here it is. And it's funny, it adds this couple of little things sometimes, but it's got this pretty nice meeting summary. So you don't necessarily even need to include this. This was here's the raw text or raw response. You click on this, and just to review it, here is the no previews available. Oh, I think I might have to show. I was looking at the wrong one. That was an old one. Here it is. Okay, that's why it makes sense that this date here is the thing. This date is kind of crazy. So that's one thing that we're going to want to work on. The other one was from a previous test. So we're going to need to change that. But let's take a look at this Google Doc. And it actually made it kind of ugly, which is kind of funny. So let's see what happened, why that happened, because I think in the email it looks great. So what did what happened that it made it look like this. It should have been a really perfectly put together um, document. So let's see what happened. This obviously, we created the document and it's possible that I did, let's see, content. The content is, for some reason, that's interesting. It did not, let's see, it did not use the HTML with the header. And this might just be because, I mean, it worked fine before. So we're going to actually, oh, look at this. This is why I think without any header or footer. That's funny. It still should have. I'm going to remove that and see what happens. Um, because I think that we do want a header for Google Docs, and hopefully that's going to work right. But now you'll also start to see that how easy it is to edit this prompt. All right, so rather than have to go back into the automation, we just went here to edit the prompt. And now while we're doing this, let's work on that date as well. So we're going to fix that header so it looks better in the Google Doc. Also, what we're going to do is do the date. That's right. So, okay, what is the problem? This, when we have this date that says now, it looks like this crazy, crazy date. Well, there's a way to format that correctly. And just to show you how it works, this is what it looks like. Um, and you basically just say, this is, you would go like this. You would go like format date. So here, okay. And then you would say now, and then you say the like how you want the date to appear. And so in my case, this is how I like it. Um, oh my gosh, what does this mean? Well, if you want to customize how the date looks, you can just do a search for I think I had like make.com tokens for date time formatting. And this shows you what little token does what. So if you see here, this is going to be day, month, and then this is, or I guess the date, month, day, and year, something that, or day, month, date of the month, and then year. So I pulled that just literally from here, and because I want it to look nice. And so that is going to be how that now looks. And I'll take that and I'll also put it on the email, replace that. But so it's starting to get a little complicated, but nothing that you can't handle. We're basically formatting the date, taking the timestamp effectively, and putting our own customized look to it. All right, so we're going to save that, and it's now ready to go again. We're going to hopefully see that HTML works this time. It still might not work. Maybe it's, I mean, it worked actually in the, that's interesting. It actually did work in the email, but not in the document, which is funny. Without any header or footer, usually I would say if we had done that, create document, my drive. So that's where, yeah, it's funny. It's just, let me see if insert. Okay, this is, I think, yeah, this is maybe what we will do. We'll keep this like that as it was, and we'll see if this solves the thing. I don't know if it's going to, but we're going to try it. Insert a header and footer. Let's try it one more time. And if not, we're going to try it again. We're just troubleshooting. And then I want to also show you, oh, while we're actually doing this, let me break something so you can see. Say I had, let me just add another Q at the end here and then press save. And now I'll go back so we can see it. And now I will enter this again, submit. And look, there's a problem because I messed it up. We can actually go in here and say, oh, this was file not found. We're like, okay, that's where the error is. And so that's where you can go in here and be like, oh, I copy and pasted that wrong. So now let's fix that and save it. And now let's try it one more time. And let's see if that works with the header and footer thing. AI is just sometimes a little bit temperamental. That may have solved it. Um, or it may be what like we want to remove that little bit from the prompt, but let's take a look. And it's kind of fun to just do some troubleshooting together. And I'm almost done. And so then we're going to have a little time for Q&A and after this. So let's take a look. This is going to be fun to see if this worked. I actually haven't used that little header footer thing before. So, all right, it did its thing. So we're going to first of all come over to our drafts. I'm going to delete this and we'll refresh our draft. Here we go. So first off, you'll see that this date looks way better now. See, we formatted that. And here's kind of like this summary below. So let's see if the document looks any better. So it still doesn't look great. So I'm going to actually try one more thing. And I have a feeling it might break the email, but fix the document, which is kind of the more important thing anyway. So last little test, let's go back to the prompt as well formatted HTML. And I'm going to say, you know, let's just delete that thing. Okay. And so like, as you can see, sometimes this stuff takes a little bit of troubleshooting. That's all we've changed. So we don't even need to save and redo anything here. We can just go back to our form and submit it one more time. And it's going to get that latest prompt from here, which is cool. That's why it's kind of neat to do the prompts in Google Documents. Plus, you then have your prompt that you always reuse. You don't have to go find it and like copy and paste. That's what makes this tool really neat is that you could do all this back and forth in ChatGPT, but it's kind of nice that it does this, for you automatically. Okay, let's take a look at, here it is. All right. So maybe this is looking good. I mean, good enough. Let's see if it fixed the Google document. Hopefully it did. All right, so that fixed it. And so I guess it needs to have a header and a footer, which automatically was put in from ChatGPT. What's funny is it still added this weird little thing, probably something at the bottom too. But you could go in here now, and what we'd recommend is you then, once you have this report, you go in here and then you can just delete it, clean it up however you need, read through it, and then you can go back to your drafts, and then you're ready to add your team members here. I mean, I just did that, but you can now go in there and send that. All right, so that is the basics of make.com, and we've realized that there's plenty of ways that you can connect your systems with Make, but it used to be just like, hey, if someone signs up for a newsletter, then add them to my HubSpot CRM. Or if, a task gets added in Asana, then send an email. It used to just be things that were quite static like that. But now the ability to add AI into the workflow is super powerful. It's extended the functionality of these tools massively. So what does that mean? Well, you can now start to think about your workflows. And this is what we talk about with clients, is that to map these things out, you need to begin to, and we always joke, it's kind of a bit of a mindfulness practice, is to get out of your stress and your chaos and to start to map out linear flows. So anything that's repeated and repetitive and tedious in your day to day, you can begin to map out. And so you can put that on a Miro or a Fig Jam, or you can even have like a Blackboard or like, Post-it notes. Begin to map out your processes, because that's what you would have to do if you were going to ask for help from an assistant. If you can clearly document it, it's very likely that technology these days can do a large part of that, at least until where you need to, do a human check. Like for me on that email, we have the newsletter every day. You'll get now, because you join this, you can always unsubscribe or change the frequency. But the newsletter is 100% automated. Every morning it scans the news. It creates a newsletter for my industry. Not only does it send out the newsletter automatically to all you guys, it also creates a podcast cloned in my voice and publishes it to all podcast platforms. It's not going to win any podcast prizes, but the AI news in under 5 minutes, it's pretty cool while I make coffee to listen to. Anyway, so this gives you an idea of what's possible for this technology. Now you could start to think about, well, I have 4 types of meetings that I would love to do this for. You could create a different form for every type of meeting. It might not be a meeting. It might be that you create a really good blog writing prompt, and then you can go to a form and be like, uh, write me a blog about this topic. You could even copy and paste another article in there. It can reference things from Google Documents. Like it could get a document that's your tone of voice. It could get the document that's the blog writing prompt. It could even get a prompt that creates the AI images. Like all the images in our newsletter are made with AI, just like this. And maybe we could do that for another workshop, is doing something very similar, but we have forms that only create images. And so you can choose things like what type of art style it could be, or format ratio, or what the actual camera lens is, right? And then it just emails me the image that I created. So my point being that you can start to now think in these steps. And so that's what I'm going to leave you with, is just as we go forward, really just start to think about, could I use AI for this? Or this is, for certain things, they're just more manual. They're going to take more human intervention or one off. Those aren't good things to automate. But anything you're doing multiple times a week, multiple times a day, you can start to look at and be like, okay, how can I leverage AI to teach me or to leverage AI to solve my problem? So we love talking about this stuff. I'm going to open it up to Q&A for our remaining minutes here, but we love talking about this stuff. If you ever want to book a call, you can go to razor.co and you can find a time. This is really great. If you have any clients who are like super busy or stuck in their workflows that need help, feel free just to put them in touch with us. And before I hand it over to you guys for Q&A, I just want to say thank you so much for joining, and it's been a blast. I'm going to stop recording.